let's start with a truth that might sting a little. Many artists avoid drawing diverse skin tones, not because they don't want to, but because it's hard. Skin tones are layered, nuanced, and ever-changing. They shift with light, carry subtle undertones, and defy the idea of one-size-fits-all color. So what do we do instead? We simplify. We reach for a single beige pencil, maybe add a shadow, and call it done. But that flattens the richness of our characters and our art. And let's be honest, the sheer number of options can be overwhelming. But don't worry, this tutorial is here to help. We're going to break down the process and demystify undertones. So, grab your pencils, markers, or whatever you're coloring with, and let's dive in. And if you're new here, I'm Lisa Marie. Welcome to my art studio. I've been a professional artist for over a decade, have a master's in art history I earned in Florence, Italy while studying the Renaissance masters, and like many artists, I'm socially awkward but love talking about art techniques and color. First, let's talk about something that often gets overlooked but makes all the difference when coloring skin: undertones. In art, an undertone is the subtle hue that lies beneath the surface of a color. It's what you see when a pigment is thinned out or layered transparently. It's different from the mass tone, which is the color in its full, concentrated form, like straight from the tube or a pencil. Think of it like this. If the mass tone is the voice, the undertone is the accent. It's the hidden bias of a color, like a red that leans slightly blue, or a brown that carries a golden warmth. And when it comes to skin tones, undertones are everything. Why? Because skin isn't just one flat color. It's a living surface that reflects light, blood flow, and even the environment. Undertones help us capture that complexity and realism. Let's break it down. Warm undertones glow with hints of burnt ochre, blush pink, and sienna brown. These tones often feel sun-kissed or golden. Cool undertones carry subtle notes of violet, indigo, or mulberry. They can give skin a porcelain or shadowed look. Neutral undertones sit in the middle, balancing hues like peach, sand, and light umber. They're versatile and often the trickiest to identify. And if you're curious to identify the pencils I'm using today, they are Prismacolor. They have a soft core that makes them incredibly easy to blend and layer. And these pencils are known for their vibrant, saturated pigments. I'll put their link in the video description if you want to add them to your art studio. So, how do you find an undertone? One simple method is to dilute the color, whether it's watercolor, marker, or pencil, and spread it thinly on white paper. Then compare it side by side with similar colors. Look at it under natural light, not artificial bulbs. That's when the undertone reveals itself. This step might seem small, but it's powerful. Knowing a color's undertone helps you layer more effectively, so your skin tones don't turn muddy or flat. Also, it helps you mix with intention, so you can build depth and harmony. And, most importantly, mimic real light and shadow, which always carry subtle color shifts. In portraiture, undertones are what makes skin feel alive. They create emotional nuance, cultural richness, and visual interest. So don't skip this step. It's the foundation of everything that comes next. Once you understand undertones, the next step is selecting a base skin tone, the color that represents the midtone of the skin under neutral lighting. This is not the lightest highlight or the deepest shadow, but the true color of the skin in average light. So Here's how it goes. First, you start with the undertone. Use the undertone as your guide. If the skin has a warm undertone, your base tone should lean towards warm hues, like golden beige, terracotta, or caramel. For cool undertones, look for base tones with hints of rose, taupe, or cool brown. Neutral undertones, go for balanced tones like peach, tan, or muted olive. Next, use reference images. Always work from a reference image when possible. Observe the skin in natural light and identify the mid-tone area, often found on the cheeks, forehead, or neck. Avoid areas with strong highlights or shadows when picking your base. Next, swatch and test. Before committing, swatch a few colors on scrap paper. Layer them lightly and see how they behave when blended. Ask yourself, does this color feel too orange, too gray, or too red? Does it match the undertone I'm aiming for? How does it look next to my highlights and shadows? After that, think about layers. Remember, the base tone is just the beginning. You'll be layering highlights, shadows, and color shifts on top of that. So, choose a base that's slightly lighter than the final look you want. It's easier to deepen a tone than lighten it once it's down on paper. After that, keep a skin tone palette. Over time, you're going to build a palette of go-to base tones for different undertones and lighting conditions. You can label them with notes like warm medium or cool deep. This will save you time and help you stay consistent across pieces. I have a playlist of skin tone color recipes you can reference. I'll put its direct link in the video description for you. Next, let's talk about adjusting base skin tone for lighting. Once you've chosen your base skin tone, the next step is adapting it to the lighting environment. Light affects not just value, lightness or darkness, but also temperature and the color. This is where your art can go from flat to dynamic. First, understand the light source. Look at it and ask, is the light warm, like sunlight or candles, or is it cool, like moonlight, or maybe fluorescent bulbs? Warm light will shift skin tones towards yellows, oranges, and reds. Cool light will pull them towards blue, purple, and maybe muted grays. An example would be a neutral brown base tone under warm light might take on a golden or peachy glow. Under cool light, that same color or tone might look more muted or even slightly blue. Second, adjust highlights and shadows, not just the base. Instead of changing the base tone entirely, tint your highlights and shadows to reflect the lighting. So in warm light, highlights might be peach, cream, or golden yellow, and shadows might lean burnt sienna or deep red. In cool light, highlights might be pale lavender or icy blue, and shadows might lean more towards indigo or plum. This creates a color harmony that feels natural. And if you want to learn a little bit more about tinting with colored pencils, I actually have a tutorial on how to color tint with colored pencils. I'll put its direct link in the video description for you. All right, third, use glazing or layering techniques. If you're working traditionally, use light layers or glazes of color over your base tone to simulate lighting. If you're a digital artist, use soft light or overlay layers to tint the skin without losing the base tone's integrity. Fourth, observe real-life references. I already talked about this, but it bears repeating. Look at photos of people in different lighting conditions. Notice how skin reflects the environment. A person near a red wall might have reddish cast on their skin. Someone under green foliage might have green shadows. These subtle shifts are what makes your portrait feel real. And fifth and final, don't be afraid of color. Skin is never just skin colored. It reflects the world around it. Embrace unexpected colors, lavender and shadows, teal highlights, hints of green or orange. These choices add depth and emotion. Okay, let's recap. Skin tones aren't just about picking the right color. They're about understanding undertones, choosing a thoughtful base, and adjusting for lighting. Yes, it takes practice. Yes, it could feel overwhelming at first. But the more you experiment and observe, the more confident you'll become. If you found this video helpful, give it a like, share it with a fellow artist, and let me know in the comments what skin tone challenge you'd like to tackle next. And as always, stay creative.